Hello and welcome back to Indie Book Talk. Today we have Jesse Salvo, who is the author of Blue Rhinoceros and the senior fiction editor for Bull magazine. Jesse is coming to us all the way from Spain. Do I have that right? Yes?
Yes.
And we are very excited to have him. So, Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much for having me.
You're our
So I'm
first Spanish author.
It's an honor to be
we're
the first
working our
one to
way around the
cross
world.
the pond. Yeah.
I didn't realize you were actually in Spain, so that's very cool. So we're
Yes.
keeping you up, apparently.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I went down and had an espresso like an hour and a half ago, so
Okay.
I'm wired for sound over here.
So if I did that, I'd be awake till to Saturday, probably.
Yeah, well, remains to be seen. Well,
Okay, so Emma said you were the editor of Bull, so I was just trying to look that up. Can you tell us a little bit about what Bull is?
yeah. So, Bull Fiction is run by our editor in chief is Ben Drevelo. I've been working for them for around 3 years. I started out just as a regular reader, and then during the pandemic, I think our submissions kicked up quite a lot, and our slush pile grew substantially. And so, uh, uh, any crisis is an opportunity. So I got pulled in to do more hands-on editorial work, and so I've been like a senior fiction editor for them for now about 2 years,
Nice.
and uh, it's a pleasure. It has totally changed how I view um, writing fiction. Like reading like 10 slush pile pieces makes you re-examine everything you've been doing thus far as a fiction writer. So that was eye-opening in a good way, in a forced self-awareness.
So I'd love to hear what that kind of stuff was. Like, what did you stop and go, man, am I doing that? Like, what kind of things should we all avoid?
Oh yeah. So I think
I know
some
it's
of
a
it
long
is,
list, but
yeah, we all we all can do better. No, uh, I mean, some of the stuff is a little bit obvious, stuff that's a little bit self-indulgent or a little bit like tonally reminiscent of another like if you're doing sort of a cheap imitation of like Susan Sontag mixed with Joseph Mitchell. I'm showing my true colors here. Um, that stuff can be a little bit grim and really take you out of the experience of reading fiction. But I think the less wishy-washy answer is like I like I found that I really like short fiction that can explain itself on its own terms, both in terms of story and as media. Like I want something that self-evidently works better as a short story than it would as like a straightforward piece of political editorial or a film script or something. And
Hmm.
that's something that I didn't think about intentionally when I was structuring stories before, and really took to heart once I started reading quite a bit.
That is a great observation because I don't think many of us stop and think about, is this the right medium for the thing we're trying to say? Because we're authors, so we're like, oh yeah, I'm going to write a story. But maybe sometimes writing a story isn't the right answer. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
Or at least not writing a story in short story or book form. Maybe you do need a script. Maybe
Yeah.
you need a poem. Maybe you just need to do, like you said, a letter to the editor and, just say what you really mean.
And exercise that demon. Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's a good impulse because we all just to reach for the pen to try and to work the muscle out is great. But
Mhm.
I've been doing this long enough to know that not everything that comes out on the other end is going to be gold. So to sort of study the impulse and then figure out whether the thing that you finally produce actually seems to comport with the idea you had in your head when you first reached for the pen is a nice rubric.
So I'm always interested. Do you have other people edit your work or do you edit your own?
So I have a dedicated, long-suffering group of first readers for a lot of my stuff. Um, luckily, I can count my sister among them, so I am not
And she'll just
legally
be
allowed.
brutal.
Yeah, right, exactly. I'm not legally allowed to not talk to her anymore. So she can pretty much tell me the truth about any given thing with impunity. Also, a couple of very close friends from New York, and sort of a cadre of people over the years, who I send things to before. Luckily, before I hit the submit button to any given magazine, uh, it's really averted a couple of catastrophes by having that group.
You can't always see your own stuff. You're just too
Right.
close to it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it just makes you a better writer. Just to have like a cooling saucer for some of your stuff, and then go back to it in 3 months, and the stuff that fails is a really good teacher. It's an interesting, instructive mechanism,
Mhm.
because you can study that and put it next to the stuff that has worked or works, and kind of start to begin to pull out a skeleton of what a working story looks like.
Hmm. So
So
did you
when
primarily do short stories before?
So yeah, so since I would say since around 2018, I started working very intentionally and concentratedly in like a short story space, and I had like sort of um, uh, I wanted to be really intentional about building up a sort of a portfolio of short stories that I was really proud of, that I thought had done really well, and that had passed muster at a few magazines before I engaged in like a really big, long, ambitious project. And uh, previous to that, I had been writing for some comedy magazines, which were not foreign affairs, but did provide the fringe benefit of keeping the lights in my apartment on. So, um, when I switched over to fiction, I sort of had a 5 year plan of the sort of stuff I wanted to be publishing, and then in 2020 the pandemic hit, and over here in Spain there was a national confinement about 2 months where everyone was in their apartments, except to go get groceries or if you needed to go to the hospital. So we were stuck inside quite a bit, and I started to work on a novel, which was actually originally a short story that hadn't really worked as a short story, and I
And
shelved
now
it.
you know why.
And it's yes, yeah. So that was the added benefit.
So what type of fiction do you write?
What type of fiction do I normally write? Um, well, you can probably tell based on bits of the novel. It's a little bit comedic often, and a little bit absurdist. I find um, uh, worlds are much more interesting for me to explore if I have a fundamentally off kilter character to sort of siphon all of my weirder authorial impulses through, and then I can kind of get some more reasonable perspective.
reading the beginning of Blue Rhinoceros, I kept thinking I was reading like Dr. Watson or one of the kind of classic detectives, but with a sense of humor. Like if he was self-aware enough to know what he was doing, like, yeah, I'm narrating this thing, I know, then this is what it would sound like. It's very polished and very engaging. There's a clear voice.
Hmm.
Um and just when you think you're like, okay, yeah, no, I see where this is going, like there's like a little curveball of humor that you weren't expecting, and I really like it.
Well, I'm so glad. Yeah, so I think the main thing for me it is always sort of language, and this goes for the short stories that I end up really liking for the magazine as well. Is language that sort of electrifies or throws me off kilter a little bit, or makes me look askance at objects or interactions I'd otherwise think of as being like commonplace. I think
Mm.
someone I reach back to all the time is Joseph Mitchell and his nonfiction writing for that, because on a sentence level, excuse me, there's like 8,000 dust spores in this house we just cleaned, and on a sentence level, uh, is just always someone who is such a thrilling author to read, even when he's describing the most banal things, um, or people who would not be considered exceptional by any modern or utilitarian rubric. The way he can describe the commonplace with such uh, beautiful sympathy and such a keen sense of humor is always something I aspire to. Though I want to say that's something I aspire to. That's the novel is a poor not swing at that.
Okay, no,
I know, I'm
but
looking at your reviews. They seem very positive.
Yeah,
I need
yeah, we've
to
had some
embarrass
very
you.
Yeah,
I
embarrassing.
need
Go ahead.
I need to embarrass you by reading this sentence aloud because I love it.
Is it
And
the first
I've
one?
come it's not the first one, the first sentence in his book. Go to Amazon right now, read the look inside and read the first sentence. And basically, if you like that first sentence, you will like this book. I think that's the metric here. But let me read you this one. He's talking about laundry. You'd think the largest items would be the biggest pain, but actually it is the small things. The socks and gloves and the like, which you cannot individually clip and hang from a laundry line without first letting go of your sanity and pitching head first into blackest madness. And so you end up hanging 1,000 little socks everywhere, all over the room, like ratty woven charms. Or at least I do. It
yes.
was a journey.
That's that's
You definitely
that
took us somewhere.
that
Yeah.
kvetching is ripped straight from the headlines. It's very common here to have a washer but no dryer, uh, which here in Galicia, where it rains like 230 days a year, means a lot of ratty woven charms on various lamps.
Interesting. So why I'm curious as why you based your book in New York. Now I'm all for it because it's a zoo, so that got me right there. But why not Spain?
So I was born in New York. I
Mhm.
was raised there for some 17 odd years, and uh, there's something really it's hard to say charming because New York can be a little bit tough sometimes,
Mhm.
but there's something I find really compelling about uh, uh, especially that sort of upstate New York area. I used to go hiking in the Adirondacks all the time, and I that region is really holds a lot of romance for me,
Mhm.
um, and it seemed like a perfect place to set what is essentially a big, strange fairy tale, farcical fairy tale with noir elements, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah, that's quite a
Yes.
combination.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
this thing on Amazon says it's a Shaggy Dog story with a Hitchcockian engine at its center. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, I'm for it. That's good.
Yes,
I
that
read
was
that. Yeah.
the suggestion of the publisher. They've been nothing but helpful, and I have been nothing but sort of bumblingly clueless about how to go about selling or market convincing anyone to read my book. So they're really wonderful.
That's the hard part. After you write it, then you
Yeah,
got to do all the other stuff.
yeah, all the icky, just like little email
Hmm.
sending and yeah, absolutely. T
But
crossing.
sometimes you get to be on podcasts like this, and
Well,
it's all
yeah,
worth it.
this is the better part, but far and away. So I
Fishing
appreciate
for
it.
compliments. Um, tell us about your publisher since you brought them up.
Yeah, so New Meridian is wonderful. They're made up. I don't want to say in majorite, because we've only corresponded mostly in writing, but in large part of different translators, people who worked in the translation space, wanted to get a wider audience for non English language authors, and then sort of over time decided to open up an independent publishing house in New York that gives a bigger voice to what they consider sort of transnational or international authors,
Hmm.
usually with some sort of vaguely lefty bent. I think it's safe to say, and and they've been nothing but a pleasure to work with thus far.
Hmm.
Awesome.
New Meridian Arts. Sorry, I should have said the name of the publisher up front. New Meridian Arts is the name of the publisher. They're really great. Highly recommend submitting to them if you have a genius pot boiler you're sitting on. So,
But you say they were primarily looking for people overseas to do.
I think they are attracted to authors who either work in more than one language or at least have some sort of international profile, but it's not like they exclude authors who don't do that. It's just that they're sort of dedicated to getting a broader audience, I think, for more idiosyncratic books or books that wouldn't normally get a second glance at maybe a bigger publishing house, which is really nice.
So I'm realizing that you are an American expat living in Spain,
Mm-hmm.
which means that I am contractually obligated to ask you, what are your thoughts on Ernest Hemingway?
Oh boy, yeah,
It's
yes,
not my fault. I had to ask.
no, yeah. It is something my partner loves to bring up to me because she enjoys watching me roll into conniptions. Uh, um, uh, he was Ernest Hemingway.
Oh, look, you stumped him.
Oh God. In a in a sense, a in a sense, a very talented, deeply flawed person who I think maybe has outsized weight in the current culture of American letters.
There you go.
That was very diplomatic. You
That was
should
way better than
probably.
way better than I was when I was like a grad student.
It was good. That was
much
very good.
much more polished, so less expletives.
I
So,
do enjoy quoting Ernest Hemingway, though, because I like to go to high schools and tell the kids that the first draft of everything is shit, because it always gets a laugh.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's great advice. Some of the other
Right?
stuff I could take or leave. I could leave it at the door, but that is really good.
so now that you've completed the first book, is there another book in the works?
Oh boy, that's
You gotta delve right in. You've done one.
dangerous question in the world. Um, I am very superstitious about discussing projects before I'm
Okay,
finished with them, but
valid. But there will be a project.
as
There,
there will be something that I labor at for a considerable amount of time, bang my head against a wall, uh, shelve for 3 months, join a monastery, come back to, and finish. I think, yeah, probably. That's my
Was that the
Slightly
process for Blue
That
Rhinoceros?
was the process. Yes, it was
Just
very
so, okay.
monastic being in the apartment for 2 months. It was
Yeah,
it was
it's
a
true. I
semi
didn't think of that.
monastic experience.
Did
so
you
you need
go visit
to.
any actual rhinoceroses?
I did not. No, 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 no. I was uh, it didn't come up. I was doing an exceptional amount of reading about rhinoceroses at the time.
Okay. I
Yeah,
did find out while looking up your book that I cannot spell rhinoceros, so that was
Nor can
interesting.
I.
Yeah,
yeah.
I was like, rhino. No, thankfully Amazon found it for me.
It's just a public service campaign to get everyone. It's like that Gwen Stefani song that taught everyone
Exactly.
to spell banana. That's really
What?
what I was going for.
So, bananas. Bananas. That one?
Exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
the very same. Yeah, exactly. So.
You
Okay,
have
so
to
it's
do
just
the
a
head bob or
ploy.
it doesn't count.
I think the head bob is obligatory. I
Right,
believe so.
right.
Okay, well, I won't ask you about your future projects. I'm glad to hear that there will be
Oh
more.
no, you're totally welcome to. I'm so sorry. Oh my
I am
gosh.
Keep a
curious,
secret.
without talking about too in depth, will any of them be based in Spain, or do you like sticking with the U.S.
I,
Locations?
I think I like sticking with the U.S. for now. I would love to write about Spain at some point, but uh, I I think John Irving said something about when he published A Prayer for Owen Meany. He said like I needed to wait 10 years until like after the Vietnam War before I could write anything with correct perspective about it.
Hmm.
And I think right now I've I've been living here for about a half decade, but I think I still need that critical distance, or I run the risk of overweighting the narrative in some strange way.
Hmm.
Um, but I would love to do a translation of a Spanish novel. That is high on my list. If I can
Oh,
ever
that would
cobble
be so
together
cool.
the money or rob a bank or something.
Again, extreme solutions there.
We went
Yeah.
from monastery to rob a bank. I don't know.
Uh,
So if people want to keep up with your escapades of, you know, monasticism and bank robbing, where can they find you on the internet?
Where they can find me on the internet. The book has an Instagram. I'm thrilled to say. It's Blue Rhinoceros book. Super simple. We'll
You
be
might want to
doing.
spell it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'll just let me jump on it for a second. So it's at the sign BLUE RHINOCEROS underscore BOOK Blue Rhinoceros book on Instagram. If you
Excellent.
want to, yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm doing my best over here. I appreciate the layups though. um, and if you would like to purchase the book, it is available either on Amazon or through my publisher. That would be New Meridian Arts. You can order from them directly if you find Jeff Bezos to be particularly icky. Um, and beyond that, I will be touring through the United States, I believe, later this summer. So
Oh,
hopefully,
fun.
yeah. So hopefully, we'll have some dates in major and minor U.S. cities
So
to
you're doing an
announce
official book
soon.
tour?
Yes, as official as we get around here. Yeah.
Well, if you
Um,
come to Maine, let me know. I'll hook you
Absolutely,
up
I
with
will
the
be in New
booksellers up
England.
here. Okay.
Okay, all right. So I will drop you a line. Absolutely. Well,
And she
Awesome.
knows all the locals. I'm in Virginia. I don't know any of the locals here. So
all right. So skip Virginia, go straight to Maine.
This is where the market is, really. You know, all 12
That is a
people in
huge
Maine